President Shekhar Mehta has challenged us to grow our membership from 1.2 million to 1.3 million worldwide this year, and that's a big task for us to do. It's a big task for us in North America, where we've seen our membership actually decreasing year over year over the last 7 years. So we need to turn that around, and we need to not just decrease, but also increase. And in the past, we've shared sort of 5 keys to success that I see, and in terms of clubs that have been successful in growing their membership, and that being having a membership plan, having a strong social media presence that we talked about in our first Wednesday night talk show, having purposeful attraction events, and that's the topic of tonight's conversation, being flexible, and having alternative membership experiences. So I think over the course of the year, we'll probably touch on all 5 of these keys. But tonight, we're going to talk about purposeful attraction events. And I'm really thrilled to have, as our presenters tonight, we've got Don McInnes from the Rotary Club of Kapuskasing, who is going to share with us some of the key strategies and things that they have done in Kapuskasing to grow their membership. And there's Don holding a fish. I don't know if he actually caught that or if he bought that from somewhere. We actually have our second presenter tonight. It's going to be Ines Mackey. Ines is the president of the Rotary Club of Temiskaming Shores, and Temiskaming Shores, I think, have done a terrific job as well in turning around their membership in their club, and have been quite successful at growing it. And then thirdly, last but not least, we have backed by popular demand, Louisa Horn from the Rotary Club of Halifax Harborside. For those of you who happen to be at our district conference, Louisa was our Rotary International rep, and I think did a terrific job representing Rotary International, and was a big hit in terms of talking to us about change and things that clubs need to do. And so we're looking forward to hearing again from Louisa. So without further ado, I guess we'll turn this back to you, Lise, and we'll get started on our Wednesday night talk show. So enjoy.
Thank you very much, Steve. I just wanted to forewarn our presenters that Lise has her camera, her phone, pardon me, and I will be timing the presentation. So Don McInnes is up at bat first, and we will ask him to speak for 10 minutes and share what Kapuskasing is doing. So welcome, Don. Thank you for being here. It's your turn.
You're muted, Dawn.
Okay, now I have 8 minutes left. Well, thank you very much, Lise, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to, especially to get 10 minutes to brag about your Rotary Club. I'm from the Rotary Club of Kapuskasing. We're located 2 hours north of Timmins, 5 hours north of North Bay, population about 8,000. And I'd just like to share with you some of the special events that we've had over the last 2 years. It all started back probably 2 years ago when I was membership chair. I did, the club was kind of dying out, and we were having a slow period. So we did a health check. And when I was tabulating the numbers in the health check, I noticed that our average population was something like 60 years old. 20% of those 60-year-olds were snowbirds. So come wintertime, we were left with pretty much not a heck of a lot of members. So then we decided we wanted to work on some different projects. So Liz was my wife. She was AG at the time. She got asked by the Rotary Club of Hearst if she would come and participate in their crazy dip, which is basically a polar bear dip in the ice. So I brought her to that event, and I seen how much fun everybody was having. Everybody was dressed up. Everybody was really energetic. I thought, wow, that's such a great idea. We have to do that in Cap. We have to bring some life back to our little town. So the following year, we managed to host our very first polar bear dip. And we called it the Bay Dip because we have our Kapuskasing is basically on the edge of a river, and our park is basically in the bay of the Kapuskasing River. So we hosted our Bay Dip right there, right in town on the frozen river. So what we did was we canvassed and we challenged different people to participate in the Bay Dip. And what they would do is they would go out and they would get donations from different people, and they would whatever money they raised went to the charity of their choice, while a percentage went to a charity of their choice. So basically what we did was whatever money that came in, sorry, 50% of whatever proceeds they raised went to their charity of choice. Whoever raised the most.
Dawn, you're freezing, so I'm gonna go off.
Slow going. It's, you know, you're how tough is it going to be? But we started off, we had a few times.
Uh-oh, we lost Don. We'll see if he can come. Oh, there he is. He's back.
You're muted.
Lise, you might want to ask Don to turn his video off. That might help him.
Don, you're muted. Don, you're muted. And perhaps if you turn your video off, I wonder if it will give you a better connection because you froze a couple of times.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, great. So like I said, we challenged people. We actually went out and to their place of business, and we went in, filmed them live on our social media page, and challenged different people to come out and do the jump. So come the day of, we had people dressed up in all kinds of different costumes. We had a best costume prize, and we ended up with about 25 jumpers the first year, and we had roughly 30 the second year. The second year, we raised some $42,000 in one day, and that $42,000 was spread amongst 25 different charitable organizations. So it was a great event for us. We also tried to include as many different organizations as possible. We drew in the Indian Friendship Center. They hosted a teepee on the ice where they did smudging. They also offered the opening prayer in 3 languages. We had it in French, English, and Cree. So it was just amazing. They also sang 3 songs for the opening. And because of COVID was on, everything was filmed live. We couldn't really have any people there. But like I say, it was amazing. Everybody was really excited about it, and we attracted a number of new members just because it was just such a wild event. And in saying that, one thing about attracting new members is that you have to be you have to look after them. When they come in, they have a lot of different ideas and whatnot. So you have to listen to the new members. You have to encourage them to get involved. And it's amazing that how many people might be quiet might be very quiet and withdrawn. But then as they get to know everybody, and then they start to bloom in Rotary. We have one young girl that joined Rotary, and the first couple of months she wouldn't say boo, and now she's a chairperson for. And she talks, she speaks, she does a fantastic job. So you have to grow your new members. You have to include them, and you have to talk to them as much as possible, get them involved in different projects. And I think that one of the biggest things is we've got record numbers for our club right now. We're up to 30, and we only have 8,000 people, and we've got a couple other members that are. We have 2 other proposed members, so really, we're really excited about it. I think the biggest thing about attracting new members, like for us, I find it was just to be out in the community doing different activities, we had to make ourselves look irresistible. And I got that one from Timmins. And, I haven't forgotten about that saying because it's true. Like, your club has to look irresistible. People have to be excited about their club, excited about the projects that you undertake. So I think that's the key. That and listening to your people. I had a story about we have two members. They just came on board probably a month ago, and they come up with this idea that we should host a Christmas parade, or sorry, winter parade, and that's something that hasn't been done in Cap for a number of years. And everybody was all for it. We said, yeah, okay, and. So they've been going out to all the businesses and whatnot, and getting donations, and I think we're up to 8 floats now. We didn't want to just have vehicles or cars; we wanted floats. And the funny story was, I called. I wanted to call and talk to them yesterday, and I didn't realize that. But Frank, our president, had spoken. He had actually called the 2 new members just to see how things were going and how they were enjoying Rotary or enjoying our club. And I put in a call. I sent them a text directly after. I said, "Listen, we got to talk." And so I scared the heck out of these 2 new members. They thought they were in trouble. But I said, I just want to congratulate you on the work that you're doing with the floats and whatnot. They're doing an awesome job. So I think that's the key, is to look irresistible and listen to your members. Don't just say that, oh, we tried that in the past, it never worked before. New members with a different twist, they can do an amazing job. The other thing I might want to touch on is the fact of the social media. When I first started out, I wasn't a real firm believer in advertising through social media. Back then, we had a newspaper in Cap, we had a radio station. So I always said, okay, if we're going to advertise, we have to get it out on paper, we have to get it out on the radio station. But this new generation with social media is unbelievable. Our polar bear dip, like I say, we're in a community of 8,000 people, and we had like 20,000 hits on our social media page for the Bay Dip. It just took off, and it just the whole town was excited about it. So, and I think a lot of that has got to do with social media. So I think you really have to work your social media. It's an amazing tool, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was wonderful, Don. You're in at 9 minutes and 35 seconds, even
Well,
with
I wanted to save some time for questions. In Timmins, I went a little bit long, but I blame that on Michelle.
Yes, Michelle, who's not here tonight, but who was there in Timmins. Yeah, thank you for that. There may be room for questions at the end, Don, that if people have questions for you, what I'd like to do is just give an opportunity to all our speakers to speak. And so for those who may have questions, please jot them down, and then we'll go back to that. So now it's my pleasure to ask Inez from the Rotary Club of Temiskaming Shores, and she's the president, to share what she wants to share with us. Inez, please.
Thank you, Lise. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I'm really, really thrilled to share some of the things that our club has done in the last few years. I joined Rotary about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was initially invited to casino night. That was all I was told. I got a text from a friend, an acquaintance, if you will, and she said, hey, the Rotary Club is doing a casino night so people can learn about Rotary. There's going to be lots of important people there. You need to be in that room. And I thought, I do need to be in that room. So I grabbed a couple of my other friends and I thought, hey guys, there's a room full of important people that we need to meet, and they're having a casino night. Are you coming? So we go. It was $20 to get in, and you get some funny money, and you play a few games, and maybe you win more funny money. And then at the end of the night, we all got to auction style pick our gifts and prizes, and they were various sponsored items, you know, a coffee mug from the local insurance broker, or a golf bag from the local lawyer's office, that sort of thing. No big ticket items, but it was still fun. They had snacks, there was a cash bar, it was held in the back room of a local restaurant, and we had lots of fun. Towards the end of the evening, my friend, who at the time was the Rotary president and the lady that invited me, she got up and she said a few words. And all she said was, we're the Rotary Club. We do a lot of good very quietly in the community. And we also like to network and meet twice a month to have dinner. It's a very minimal commitment. It's 2 evenings a month. And we would like to invite the people here to join us to do good in the community. And that's all I knew about Rotary. I knew zero other things about Rotary, but it sounded interesting. And the 2 friends that I brought with me to the event were people who we always want to hang out and spend more time together, but we never have time because we're all professionals. But this was a fun event, and the other people that we'd met that evening seemed interesting. They may have been older, and people that we wouldn't have met otherwise, but we were curious. So we joined. And every year since, we've organized that casino night. And we typically invite 20 to 30 people who are distant acquaintances, first name basis, maybe Facebook friends, to our event. We get about 10 of them that come out, and we almost always get between 2, 3, or 4 that join every single time. And either way, it's always a fun night. Some of the other things that we did once we started to have a bit more of a younger group in our club, we really had this desire to take on a big project. We wanted to impact the landscape of our community. We wanted to do more than the small tasks that we were doing. It was fantastic that we were donating to the food bank every year, but we wanted to do something a lot more visible. And out of nowhere, we just decided we are going to build a splash pad. We'd never built a splash pad before, but we figured that's something we could do. Someone should do it. We have a lovely waterfront. We felt it deserved a splash pad. Of course, we had to fund this splash pad, which meant we had to put together fundraising schemes, fundraising events. And our first event that we considered putting on was the local Oktoberfest. And we did that 3 consecutive years. The only year we didn't do it was, well, last year and this year, but there was this whole pandemic thing, don't ask. But our Oktoberfest was wildly popular. Our community is only 10,000 people, and we are starving for events. We want to go out, we want to have a good time, but we want to support local causes. We don't want to do it for no reason. It's not justified. And we did. We bought decorations, we rented a venue, we hired 2 live bands, we invited various craft breweries from all over Ontario to come to our Oktoberfest. They all made a donation to our cause, which was fantastic. They gave us a portion of the proceeds. And our event raised, typically, depending on our ticket sales, anywhere from about $9,000 to $15,000 in the one night. And for our club, that's a lot of money. Last year, because we weren't able to do our Oktoberfest, hanging out indoors was sort of frowned upon and quasi illegal. We decided to host a fishing derby. We figured this would be great. It's outside. We get to utilize our beautiful winter. We have this giant, lovely Lake Temiskaming. Everyone's fishing anyway. We might as well give them a reason to support us. So we organized our fishing derby. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a fisherman. And I wasn't gonna go out there with my tape measure or a ruler and tell people that their fish is or isn't the winner. So we did some research, and we wanted to find not only a COVID safe way, but an efficient way to host this fish derby. And we found online tools that will allow us to host a virtual fishing derby. And we created an online fish derby where people can download our app and purchase a $50 ticket to our event. And they can go out on the ice and set up for, the week that our event was hosted on, take a picture of their fish measured against a standard tape measure and upload a video of themselves measuring it. And the winner won the pot. I believe it was a 50-50 pot, and I can't remember the exact amount, but it was quite a generous pot. And of course, we got tons of donations from the community. We got a lot of visibility. I do a lot of social media professionally, so we really overdid it with the fish derby. We even caught the attention of CTV News, and they came out, which was fantastic. And the virtual fishing derby was a huge success. And we had a lot of people reach out to us afterwards and say, how do I become a part of this? Who are you and how do I join? So those were the main things that we did to grow and gain a lot of attention. I summarized a lot of that in just a few minutes, but this was like 4 or 5 years worth of work, and it's something that we built on over time. The last thing I want to mention is the use of social media, because I know that Dawn talked about that a little. Is that if your club has a social media page, that's great. Make sure you put stuff there. But if you personally have social media pages, make sure you speak about the club on your personal page, because the way the algorithms work, Facebook in particular will push personal content at about 100 times more than institutional or commercial or business pages. So talk about your club woven into your personal dialogue on your personal pages, and don't just leave it to the club's page, because it won't have the same reach. And that's all my stuff. Does anyone have any questions?
Wow, Inez, that was excellent. You still have 1 minute and 45 seconds. So if anybody has questions, we could entertain them. Steve.
Well, I don't have a question. I have more of a comment, because Ines and I were together a week or so ago, and I was fortunate enough to see some of the projects, the splash pad that's under construction, and some of the other projects that the Rotary Club has done in the community. And I think that one of the takeaways that I had from my visit there is that, and I think the same is true for Kapuskasing as well, is both of those clubs are very visible in the community, and you see Rotary everywhere. And we joked, Ines and I joked about the fact that in Temiskaming Shores, everywhere you drive around, you see these road signs that are Rotary road signs that I think they say drive carefully or something like that. And it's just there in your face. And so everywhere you go, you see these signs. And that, as well as the projects that they do, I think makes their club very prominent in the community. Likewise, Don in Kapuskasing, the Rotary Club, he didn't mention it, but the Rotary Club runs the food bank in Kapuskasing, and everybody in Kapuskasing knows about the food bank and knows that Rotary runs that food bank. So, I think that's a real takeaway for me. And we can come and circle later, maybe talk a bit more about social media that both Dawn and Ines mentioned, and then maybe we'll touch on that at the end more if we have time. So.
Thank you, Steve. Your time is up. That's part of Inez's time. So I'll go on to Louisa, and we will be able to ask questions after. Sorry, Dawn, I couldn't go to you, but because I want to make sure that Louisa gets her 25 minutes. And then if there's questions, I invite everyone to ask the questions. Louisa, and just so you know, Steve did mention that Louisa was the Rotary International President Rep at the conference in Timmins, which is true. Louisa is also past district governor. She was in the same year as Bill Hagborg. And Louisa is an innovative club advocate for zones 28 and 32. Okay, now Louisa.
Okay, thanks, Lise. So I want to use my time well, but I also want to know, I recognize quite a few faces, but for the people that have their video on, can you just raise your hand if you were in Timmins? So I just know how many people. Okay, almost everybody. Okay, so we're going to go really fast through some of the slides that are a repeat, because there's some that are not that I want to focus on. So let me just share first. And earlier today, it didn't want to share properly. So we'll just see if it does now. This is odd. I don't, oh, there we go from beginning. Hopefully this will. It's really slow and now it's giving me that. So we'll just go to display. Come on. And duplicate. Okay, now you should be seeing the right thing. So I'm going to back up a little bit from the two great examples, which I'm going to leverage that we just heard because they were perfect for what I want to talk about. But I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about how you prepare for events and the importance of being disruptive. So I sometimes say that I'm a bit of a shift, there's an F in there, a shift disturber, and that I try and disrupt things. And in the case of looking at membership, you've given some great examples there. I think it's important that we think about how we prepare for some of those events and the kinds of things that are important to really be well positioned to leverage the events that you have. So we're going to talk very quickly. Now we're seeing quite a delay here. I don't know why that's happening. So just a sec, I'll see if I can do it another way. There we go. So you see my flamingo flow is here, and those that were in Timmins will know that I and my friend Beacon here down at the bottom dancing with Barry Rassin are very big on this idea of flamingos of change and the idea of really being prepared to go against the stream. And that's what that flamingo in the middle is doing. It's going against the stream. And obviously with what I had said before, we're talking about being outside the box completely, which clearly those examples that we just heard about were. And really it's about thinking like there is no box. And that's how I want you to think about your clubs. And Dawn very wonderfully talked about the whole idea of being irresistible, which again, I will emphasize tonight, and having that courage to pivot and go against the crowd as you think about, as Dawn did, is everything you do irresistible. And that is so critical as we think about the kinds of things that are important to be attractive to people coming to a club. So when I hear people talking about membership events or recruitment events, I immediately get a little bit worried about whether or not recruiting in terms of talking people into Rotary or selling Rotary is something that the club is ready for. And by that, I mean that first of all, we want to make sure that your club is attractive and alluring so people want to be part of it, so that they don't want to fight it, so that it has all of those characteristics that we know are so critical of irresistible organizations. Is it meaningful? And we heard from both of those examples that the activities that were happening in the communities were meaningful to people. There's support. It's a fantastic environment. And clearly that's the case if the casino night was presenting that kind of fun environment that people want to be part of. There's growth opportunities and there's trust. So that's what your club needs to be. And I just included a little picture up in the corner of the snow in front of my house, just to say that on Friday mornings at 6:30 in the morning, when I have to leave to go to my meeting, it's got to be irresistible in order for me to do that in the dark on a Friday morning. So I want to emphasize now the things that would be things to consider if you were not an irresistible club. These are the signs and symptoms that I see, because membership to me is a symptom. The issue is not that we have a problem with membership in Rotary. We have a problem with irresistibility in Rotary. And if these things are characteristics of your club, then it's probably time to step back and do something about it. And we're going to talk more specifically about the things that you can do with some slides that were not part of the Timmins conversation. So clubs that I see that have a symptom of not being irresistible are clubs where stuff just doesn't change. The rituals, the culture, the activities, the service projects, the fundraisers, they've been around a really long time. And the people in roles may have been around a long time. So these are ones where the same person has chaired an event for years and years and years. The same treasurer has been in place for a long time. Things are just not evolving, and new members as a result are typically not staying. So we see them come in the door, may even be a large group come in one year. I see this quite often where a club will have some very successful activities and maybe 8 or 10 people will join in a given year, and the next year more than 8 or 10 are gone. when we see clubs where the executive leaders don't stay. So I've worked with clubs where I can remember one in Newfoundland, actually, where the president was able to tell me how many sleeps were left. And that was a typical thing within this club, that the president at the end of their year would take a leave because it wasn't an irresistible role. And when I hear clubs talk about challenges with leadership, I think about irresistibility again. Is the role overwhelming? Is it really a burden for people? And in this particular case where the person was counting how many sleeps, it was. The president was expected to do everything and there wasn't a team. I've been in clubs where people say that they don't invite their own friends and family to join. They already have recognized that their club is not irresistible and they're not feeling good enough about it to invite people. When that happens, there's a real issue with being irresistible. Guests don't come back. People come, they visit, they might come once, twice, they don't come back. And nobody asks them why, and they may not even ask members why when they leave in terms of an exit interview. Not much diversity within a club, and diversity is not just one lens of diversity, but many lenses of diversity to think about, because I often will have people say, well, we don't have much diversity in our community. Well, it's not just visible diversity or ethnic diversity, it's also age, it's gender, it's vocation and different styles of work, it's education backgrounds, it's interest levels. There are many, many ways of looking at diversity, and all of those lenses are important in having a club that's going to be irresistible. Small group is doing way too much. This is a pretty typical one that we hear about clubs where it's just the same half a dozen people or the same handful of people that are doing everything. That's a sign of things not being irresistible. Members don't respond to requests. So people put out requests. I need some people to help with certain things. It's that same small group and others don't respond. So what does that tell us? The things that they're being asked to do are either not engaging for them, they're not interested, it's not hitting their passion, something's not working for them. And very common, there's no strategic direction or key area of focus or cause for the club to be focused on that can be attractive to people, or new people coming in don't have the opportunity to put their passions and cause forward as something that a club might work on. Another one that I worry about quite a bit, I'm working with a club right now where there's not transparency or accountability, and that becomes worrisome to people. So clubs where, oh, maybe there haven't been financial statements for a long time, or where a club has started to bring in more revenue, but people are not seeing statements from the fundraisers. Not that anything is going wrong, although sometimes it is. I've been involved with several over the last few years across the country where there were issues. But people want to have that sense of a certain level of professionalism and accountability and transparency for the operation to be positive. And there could be a whole lot more, but those are key ones that I want to highlight before I get to the slide to talk about the things that we need to be doing in our clubs as we prepare for those intentional events. If these things are in place, then I would say it's not the time to recruit. And I put recruit in quotations because it's a word that I generally ban. I don't want to talk about recruiting. I want to talk about having a club that is attractive to people. And sometimes it means turning things upside down. So your club may need to be prepared to do some things that are perhaps a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit different from what we've done. I often use the example of Kodak, of the person that invented digital photography. He worked at Kodak and they told him they weren't interested. They wanted to keep doing the same thing they've always done, whether it works or not. And we know that guy talked about the definition of insanity. And we know that in Rotary, we do that a lot. We do the same thing year over year, and we don't always step back and say, is this getting us where we want to go? We tend to put our head in the sand sometimes. So I think it's time in those situations and for every club on a regular basis to think about change, because if we don't change things, nothing's going to change. And it takes leadership. It takes new people in leadership roles. I'm delighted to hear the example where some new people have come in and now they're in leadership roles, people that have been relatively new to Rotary, bringing new things and new ideas. Because these priorities that Rotary International has defined really underpin what we do, whether or not we're having impact, engaging people, adapting and responding to changes, and being inclusive as we expand our reach need to underlie the things that we do as we look in the mirror. So there's my little beacon looking in the mirror and not really seeing reality. And we do this a lot in Rotary. We say everything's great, club's doing well. We brought 2 new people in, things are good. Not necessarily acknowledging, well, yeah, we brought 2 new people in, but 4 people left this year. So we're not really moving the needle in the way we want to. So we need to look at these moments of truth. So this is a more specific list. I did not talk about these top 10 moments of truth in Timmins. So this is a bit of a different piece that hopefully will be relevant for some of you. And it really asks the question, are we looking at every interaction that happens with people who might be interested in our club? And are we looking at all of those to see if they're all irresistible? And this is something that my own club did a number of years ago when we were looking at a major transformation. We were quite small at the time and knew that we needed a new strategy, a new plan to be put in place. And we looked at every possible aspect of the club and made changes before we went out in a big way, so to speak, to look at bringing more people in. So both of those examples were excellent in terms of the very first moment of truth, which is, do people know you exist? Can they find you? Are you visible? And are you developing partnerships in the community? And so I think in some communities, particularly some of the smaller communities, you actually have an advantage because you have local newspapers and local radio, and you have the ability to put up signs all over the whole community that everybody will see. And so your visibility can actually be higher in terms of the percentage of people that know you exist than it would be in a big city. So that's an advantage in many ways, but we all need to think about that. And Don mentioned his perhaps initial lack of feeling the love for social media and how important that is. Very critical in terms of the moment of truth that you have of how you present yourself to the community and whether or not you have partnerships in the community that you can leverage. And that is key. And I think you were demonstrating certainly with the way that you supported many groups with the ice jump. Meaningful impact. People need to see that meaningful impact. So are you connected to what the community needs and well connected to know the kinds of things that new people will be attracted to? Because they may not be attracted to some of the small things. And we heard Inez talked about having something that was bigger. It was great to do the food bank, great to do some of the small things, but the bigger, more of a signature project, that the splash pad, those are the kinds of things that can really up the ante, so to speak, on your visibility and impact. Can people get to you? Convenience. So that's everything around the cost, the food, the location. Are you using technology? Do you have hybrid opportunities now? We've certainly had a big leap forward in that whole area, but just the agility and the willingness to question, well, just because this is the way we've always done it, does that mean it's the way we always have to do it? And it may not be if you're not achieving the results that you want. It might be fine for the people that are there now, but it might not be fine for the people that you want to attract. So finding that balance is important. Do new people know what they're getting into? So this is a big one. When we look at the surveys of people that leave Rotary, they often talk about not really knowing what Rotary was all about. And Inez talked about not knowing much about Rotary at the beginning, but obviously learned very quickly. But we often see that people don't have a good orientation. They don't have people following up with them, as Dawn mentioned, calling up those new people and asking how things were going. They don't have the transparency in terms of how much they're going to have to spend. They don't understand the time commitment. They don't know that, yes, these are the dues, but oh, there's a 50-50 every week and there's a meal, and oh, we expect you to buy a table for this event and we expect you to sell this many tickets. People need to know that if they're going to understand and want to be part of what you do. Then there's the leadership. So having clear goals, having a clear strategic focus, being organized with your committees, innovation, this is what your leadership team needs to be focused on. There need to be teams to work on things, but the leadership needs to make sure these things are in place, and the continuity of leadership is so critical. We know we have new leaders every year in Rotary, which is a great thing for giving people opportunities. Some clubs choose to do 2 years, and that's great too. But having the succession plan and having the collaboration among that team is so important. Then, really big one that we hear about when we do research on when people leave Rotary is the whole culture of the club. And it sounds from both of those examples that we just had that there was lots of fun, there was lots of support and lots of activity to keep people engaged with a variety of activities, which is so important. But we also know that those cliques and the ritualistic things can be a problem in terms of being attractive to people. And we need to know about the inclusive language and behavior. So inappropriate humor, bullying is rampant in Rotary, much more than we would ever imagine. I hear about it all the time, and it's something that we need to be prepared to address. And opportunities for growth are important. So the mentorship for new members coming in, connections, feedback, as Dawn mentioned with calling them again, and welcoming innovation as opposed to saying, oh, no, that won't work. But rather looking at those new ideas like the parade and saying, yeah, why not? Let's try it. Let's look at that. Because if those new folks had come and somebody had said, no, we never do that, or we did it before and it didn't work, they'd be gone. So kudos to you. Do they feel valued? So that ties in with this. So the new ideas are encouraged and they get recognized. They get the phone call to say, well done. That's important from an irresistibility perspective. Then all avenues of service being engaging for them. So whatever things you're involved in, whether it's local service, international, youth projects, vocational projects, all of those things need to be engaging and to have a variety so that not everybody is expected to do everything. Not everybody's going to be interested. And so it's important to have a range of things and that people don't feel pressured or shamed. I had a conversation with a club this morning where they said people were shamed, publicly shamed, if they didn't sell the certain number or do a certain thing. And that's not irresistible, obviously. And then finally, and both of you with your examples certainly talked about things that were fundraising in terms of the fundraising projects that you do, that they're not burdensome, that they're not overwhelming, that people are enjoying them and having fun. And in fact, your activities, your social activities and your fundraising activities become recruiting events, so to speak. Even though we're not specifically saying that's our target, you both gave examples of projects that attracted people to your club because they saw the fun and they saw the engagement and the community connection. So growth can be in many different areas. It just not just in numbers. You can have goals around growth that look at all of these different aspects of what a club can do to grow. And I think it's critical that we don't just get hung up on numbers, but that we think about other ways that we can grow, recognizing that it's not all going to work. It's not all going to be smooth. There could be ruffled feathers from time to time, and that's where our strong leadership comes into play. And we know, if you remember, I used this slide before, I always use this one, that it's all about me, but me stands for member experience. Your role in leading a club is to make sure that the member experience is second to none. And to have the courage to work through the things that don't work. Not every activity is going to work. Not every fundraiser is going to be a big success, but we need to have the courage to try and stay focused on trying to achieve the goals that we set out from a strategic perspective for the club and to provide that guidance and leadership. And when it doesn't work, we're going to fake it till we make it in terms of being a flamingo and trying to make sure that we have the irresistibility that will attract the people that we want to attract to our club. So I will stop. Lise, I know I cut it, so that was good. I've got lots of time because I know there's probably questions for everybody, and we want to make sure that people have time for that. So I'll stop there in terms of thinking about what you need to do to be ready for those amazing activities that you've talked about that will attract people to your clubs.
Well, thank you very much, Louisa. So what I'll try to do is to see anybody's hand up so that I can call upon you to ask the question or make a comment. So for those of you who may have had questions for Dawn, and I kind of cut you off, Dawn, sorry, you can ask questions of anyone, any of our panelists. And thanks again, Louisa, Dawn, and Inez for being our featured speakers this evening. So any questions for any one of these fantastic speakers? Dawn.
I don't really have a question, but I just have a statement. One thing, pardon me, one thing I've noticed about our Rotary Club and a lot of other Rotary clubs is that we don't advertise ourselves very well. Like, we don't promote our clubs. Like, we do amazing things in our communities, and yet we very like we always seem to be somebody in the, we're always in the background. Like we do a lot of different projects, but we don't promote the name Rotary. And I think by getting your club out there and doing a lot of getting a lot of exposure, it makes a huge difference. The reason why I'm saying that is because we had one girl in our club, and I couldn't believe it. Kapuskasing, 8,000 people. She had to Google a service organization, and that's how she found Rotary. And I think, you know, that's when you say, you know what, we're doing something wrong. We have to be.
You're absolutely right, Don, and that's been it was a bit of a sort of a cultural thing in the past that we don't talk about what we do, and we don't brag about what we do, and we don't want to be too visible with what we do, and it was really part of what it was to be part of Rotary, and that has changed a lot in the last little while, particularly since numbers started going down in the early 1990s, which is when things changed in North America, and so now people recognize how much more focus we need, and particularly with social media and so on. So we do see clubs that spend money for TV ads. We have clubs that spend money for bus shelter posters. There's all kinds of things that people have done. And it, you know, it depends on the location and what you have available as far as local media. But you're absolutely right. We've never been really good at this, ever.
Thank you, Louisa. So I'm going to go to Joanne, then Robert and Steve, and I think Juanita had her hand up as well. So Joanne.
Thank you. I have a question for Enos regarding the splash pad, actually. I think that's really interesting, and kudos to your group for getting that up and running. Overall, from the time the first idea was mentioned and to completion, you know, where the youth could go in there and splash around merrily, what was your timeline on that roughly? And do you have a partner, your municipality, perhaps somebody else who does the maintenance of it? Like, did you just do the construction, or do you take responsibility for it ongoing?
So our responsibility is for the fundraising. So to answer your first question regarding the timeline, it's actually only going to open in summer of 2022. We initially were planning to open summer of 2020, but of course, COVID delayed us. We were hoping to open for this year, but there was a huge shortage with construction supplies. So we're opening next year. So I'm going to say probably it's going to end up being a 5-year from the first thought to finally finished. In terms of partnership, yes, we partnered with the city. The city donated park space, and they are going to do the maintenance, and they're going to take it on in perpetuity. So it's going to become a city asset. We're essentially funding the city to construct the splash pad.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inez, and thank you, Joanne, for the question. I'll now go to Robert with his question, and Phyllis, you will be able to answer your question after Juanita. Robert.
Thanks, Lise. So just to Joanne, we've just opened a splash pad in North Bay. Both Rotary clubs collaborated with the city. If you want to contact me or somebody in, me, I guess, in the North Bay Rotary Club, I can give you some contacts for any sort of information you might want to have around what was important around that. So I didn't really have a question. I guess I just really have to commend all the speakers. I was at the district conference and so heard the Kapuskasing story. I was delighted to hear the Temiskaming story tonight. And Louisa managed to create enough new content for this one that I was still scribbling things down about as often as I was at the district conference. So this has been a really great session. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Robert. I go to Steve.
Oh, thank you, Lise. I really have more of a comment, and I guess it's around social media and the importance of social media that I think Dawn, Ines, and Louisa all emphasized. And I think it's a great way to get yourself known in the community. So I am going to.
Steve, you just got muted.
I was muted. I somehow got muted. I'm going to post in the chat and some a new website, Facebook page, Instagram that the Huntsville Satellite Club has just launched. And I just think when I look at it, it's a great way to promote Rotary, and it's certainly not your typical Rotary sort of message that's out there. And I think if I was a potential new member, that looks to me to be the type of club that I would want to join. So so that's there for your reference, and I encourage you to have a look at those. So that was my comment.
Thank you, Steve. I now go on to District Governor nominee Juanita.
Big title lady. Hi, thank you to all of our speakers. And thank you again, Louisa. You've certainly hit on a topic tonight that both Tim Noor and I are both going to be having conversations about in our Collingwood area. And I was wondering if you would be okay. We know we copied it or we videoed this tonight. Would you be okay with us using your voice instead of our voices
Sure.
to explain some of the possibilities to make ourselves
Absolutely.
irresistible?
Sure. Nope. That's all part of the deal. It's all out there. So absolutely feel free. And if I can be of any help for real on the screen, I'm happy to try and do that as well.
Perfect.
Thank you, Juanita. Thank you, Louisa. And now I go to Phyllis.
I just wanted to share, I have to say, having gotten to know the Kapuskasing Club and creating relationships with some of the members, it has been incredible because now we're taking some of their ideas, using them for ours. They have this fabulous trailer that they've got. It's gorgeous that they've done all this branding on. Well, my husband and I have his trailer sitting there. It's a little bit longer, but same thing. And so we're going to donate it to our club, and we're going to get it, what's the word? Screened, whatever the term is. And yeah, so, and it can be used by whether it's members or, the food bank, or, we're looking at doing a toy drive. And so we're going to get it out there. And one of the locations we have is very public where we can put it, what's being stored. And, but also I've talked to them because we're doing a Santa Claus parade, which just came up. All of a sudden we're able to do it. And so we're working with them, and we're going to do the same theme as them. So we're going to share graphics, and we're going to help each other out. And I think there needs to be more of this, of collaborating and getting that kind of personal relationship. Like, how many hours are we away from each other? 6-8 hours, but it doesn't matter because we can work together and help each other. And we went up and volunteered with one of their projects. We took our RV and, and I think there needs to be more of that, and that's building of relationships. Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
comment,
Phyllis.
Phyllis. I'm just going to highlight there if I can, Liz. I don't know if you've seen, but you will, I'm sure, hear about some of the success that some clubs have had during the pandemic in growth. And Kingston is one of the areas that's had particular growth. And a lot of that they attribute to collaboration among the clubs in the area, that they all work together on projects. They share a committee. We have in the district that I'm in, a shared international services committee among a number of clubs that aren't necessarily geographically close, but are able to have more impact by throwing their money into a pot and sharing it. So that collaboration is so important.
Thank you for that, Louisa. And I'm just going to give a bit of a teaser to the people that are online today. Louisa talked about the Rotary Club of Kingston. And as a matter of fact, Steve and I have invited Paul Elsley, who is an AG in that area. And he's also Alan Ingram's son-in-law. And so he will be our featured speaker in January to talk about his success with his club. So just a bit of a teaser. So you may wish to put that on your calendar to join us for District Governor Steve Meadley's talk show in January. Any other questions? Oh, Don.
Hello, I don't really have a question, but I have I just have a remark. Like Phyllis was saying, I think it's so good to be able to work with other Rotary clubs in your area. because we're such a small club and whatnot, and sometimes the cost of putting on some of these events are quite costly. So it's always nice when you can share the cost with other clubs, like with Hearst, and they have a crazy dip. We have a polar bear dip. We work together. They bought a cage that goes in the ice. We bought a hot tub for our drive-in movie theater. We partnered up and we shared the cost of a drive-in screen. And so I think it's really nice to be able to work with other clubs. You get to see what they do, what works for them, what doesn't, and it also reduces your cost as a club to put on special events. And I think it's a fellowship too. You get to know you get to meet so many interesting people. It's really worthwhile. And like Phyllis was saying, we did a fishing tournament last summer. Her and her husband came up and volunteered. We couldn't get them in a boat, but they helped out.
Well, thank you very much for Don. Perhaps I'll just add one quick comment and then I'll go to Steve. Bill Hagborg is the one, when he was AG, we went to Gore Bay with Bill many times to help with their fish fry that they have every summer. Mind you, we didn't have it because of COVID, but nevertheless, as a matter of fact, Bill's theme, Rotary, that's what we do, to that point. So many people have gone to Gore Bay to help out, and there's been other examples as well. So I like what you've shared with Kapuskasing, both you and Phyllis. Okay, Steve.
Okay, I thought I'd just share with you the picture that I mentioned earlier.
Oh.
Can you see it now?
Ah.
So, I just thought it's simple, but it's very visible, and these signs are everywhere. So, it's the sort of thing that I think is probably fairly inexpensive. Maybe it's something that we could do on a group basis through the district if clubs wanted to do something like a sign like this in their community. We could do a bulk order or something like that. So anyhow, that's sort of food for thought, and we'll see where that goes. So, but it's simple.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions? We have 2.5 minutes. If not, I don't see any questions. I just wanted to share, like I heard Louisa talk about this idea of diversity, and which is so important with different lenses, and that's true. One of the things that I often share with people is that while initially Rotary was about professions and about people that were either the CEO or someone high up in a corporation or in a business, the reality is that anyone with good character can be a Rotarian if they are looking to do good in their community. So in other words, they want to do some service. It goes with our motto, service above self. So when you're looking around you to see who could be a good Rotarian, anyone with good character could be, if they want to do some service work within their community. So that opens up the possibilities a lot more, and friends and family, of course, are always welcome. Okay, I see
Barb has a question for us. When will this be posted on the district site? It'll be posted probably in the next day or so, Barb. So we will get it up there with the previous session.
So we have 1 minute left. We can either have a question, or for good behavior, we could be done early. Steve, I'll leave it up to you because you're this is your talk show.
Well, thank you very much, Lise. Thank you very much for organizing tonight, and thank you very much to Don, Ines, and Louisa for your presentations. It was very helpful, very interesting, and again, I think we've had a very successful Wednesday night. So next month we have it's showing some of the changes that have taken place at our district website, and some of the types of information that I'm sure you don't know is available. We will be able to share that with you. So that'll be next Wednesday,
December 1st. December 1st with Bill Hagborg.
Yeah. All right.
And that's it. Our time's up. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
One, jump into another.